What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo football podcast, live from training camp. We are here, St. John Fisher University, the man himself, Bill's general manager, Brandon Beane, kind enough to join us. This is your debut appearance on the Shout podcast. Thank you so much.
What took you so long?
I mean, it's been years in the making. I wanted to make sure that some people watched it first before I said, come on the show.
Or you struck out with all the people you really wanted, so you finally came to me. I get it.
There you go. Well, I'm no Pat McAfee. I know you're a seasoned media veteran at this point. By the way, did you take any coaching on that? I know a lot of players when they're coming up through college football or whatever, they might do some media training. Did you have to do that in any way? I don't know what that's like for a front office person.
No, not really. Just Derek Boyko Communications School is the only thing. And it's a great school. You got to look it up, though.
You have to watch every episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm to get into that school, I've heard.
Yes, you do. And be able to recite it all.
Yes, otherwise it doesn't count. So if you're watching this episode, you're watching the 2 years ago defending champions of the media golf tournament.
Yeah.
I want to shout that out because, hey, you played this year, but you didn't win.
No, I didn't.
What happened?
Honestly, I putted terrible. I hit the ball plenty good, and we just didn't make a putt. It was bad. Did we beat you or no?
You probably beat us. We didn't finish great, although Chris Merrow from the Bills, Spencer Brown, wow. I was very impressed with both of them.
Did a good job.
I didn't play well. But what I really want to talk about was John Scott and Josh Reed not playing well.
Well, you mentioned their names. I didn't.
Okay. I just wanted to double check.
No, we had a good time. We had fun. It definitely was not our day. I think John made a couple putts though.
What was the premier golf experience of the summer?
Man, played some really good tracks. I would say we've been doing this standing match at the end of the summer at the Kiowa Ocean Club. It's me and Shane Beamer, so it's football versus the Hall brothers, which is Hall's Steakhouse. It's down in Charleston's their original one. I'm good friends with them, and they've got one in Nashville and Greenville. They got a lot of them, but anyway, it's kind of how we finished the summer. Shane's just getting down there how the NCAA works from South Carolina, and I'm kind of wrapping it up. So we played Saturday a week ago, and we took the trophy back this year. So
Did you?
It was fun. Yeah, it's been a good battle.
So you like putting trophies on the mantle when it comes to golf?
I do. I don't like to lose. You know that.
What was the experience like out in Canada when you guys went up there? I know that the video team came and kind of documented that day. It seemed like a cool experience to experience what it'd be like to be a pro.
It was fun to quote unquote inside the ropes with these guys, and it was a good setup. We were with Patrick Fishburne, who went to BYU. Young guy's been on the other tour for a little bit, and he's kind of working his way off. But it's fun to watch those guys hit the ball, and we had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, after hole 11, when we were going to hole 12, the bottom dropped out, so we didn't get to finish. We were with Kevin Roy, the second 9. So it's kind of a cool format. You play with a pro, the front 9, and then you play with a different pro, the back 9. And those guys were cool. We were exchanging, kind of their life, their travel schedule. I was talking to the caddies a little bit, and of course they were asking NFL questions, and we had a good time. Of course, the first hole, my guy Jamie Miller busted his driver, so that was you couldn't have drew it up any better. The laughs we had on that.
Yeah, it looked like a good time. Thank you so much for watching. We're excited to bring you daily coverage from Bill's training camp right here on the Shout podcast. And I wanted to ask you, you're a veteran of this now. I mean, this is like a second home, a home away from home for you. What's like a day in the life of Brandon Beane when you get to Fisher, taking in practice, going through all of the different parts of it, to take fans through that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we love it up here. Pittsford's such a nice community, and St. John Fisher, it's awesome. So no, we got a group of us that get up in the morning. We take about a 4.5 mile stroll through Pittsford, and we talk. And of course, we're even competing when we're walking, and we're talking smack for the guys that are straggling behind. But that's kind of how it is. Come in, shower, grab breakfast, sit down with some of the personnel or the scouts. Right now, the college scouts are in here for a week before they go out. So we had a meeting this morning, just kind of going through where we are, some of the things we want to look for, any of our process changes. Then go to practice. Come off. Today was one of my media sessions. Grab some lunch, and then this afternoon I'll sit down and usually when Terry's here, we'll go through the film together, and he can ask me questions. I can point out good and bad, or sometimes what's going on here or what's not. So we'll do that this afternoon, and then the guys will come out for a walkthrough. We usually walk out there, and it gives me a good chance. Walkthroughs are ratcheted down from practice, so in between things or when it's over, to mingle with some of the players, and especially if it's guys I haven't seen in the CAF. And at night, you're trying to catch up on emails and calls, and you're doing some of that in the day. But it's a full day, but it's fun. We love it up here. It's a great getaway, and that's one of the things Sean and I have always been in lockstep. Just the importance of getting away and removing distractions, and this place is a great fit.
It's been such a cool offseason for you. Your son Tyson getting his first NFL job, right?
Yeah.
He's scout now with the Giants. What's that been like as a dad? Because I feel like, I know my son, he's got his little, his watch that we can text back and forth when I get up to camp. Is he sending you updates from all of his stops and everything like that? What's that been like from a dad perspective?
It's been fun. He really, when he was in high school, he played high school football, but he knew, it's going to end when high school's over. And so he had told me, hey, Dad, I want to go to the SEC. He'd always heard me talking about SEC football is the closest thing to the NFL, and that's our, one of the top breeding grounds for the guys we find. And so he narrowed his schools down to LSU, Alabama, Georgia. He goes down there, and he was working for Alabama football before he even started class, and volunteering, not getting paid, and I think the first 3 years, I think they did compensate him a little bit last year. But it's fun to see he had a vision. I don't think I definitely didn't have that vision the way he did, that early in high school, and it took me a little time in college. And then he did an internship last year with Carolina, and was fortunate enough to get an interview with the Giants, and so he started mid-May. It's been cool to watch. He was able to vacation with us a little bit, and I'm like, man, they're grinding you a little bit. They gave him some projects over the summer, and I think most of them were some pro players. So we would banter about it a little bit, but it's fun. They're off at Giants camp now, and I'll let him do his thing. But it's fun, and you want the best for him.
All right, everybody, let's take a quick break from our episode with Brandon Beane to talk about Amtrak. Amtrak's Empire services offer frequent departures daily from Niagara Falls, Buffalo, all the way to New York City. They have stops in Rochester, Utica, Syracuse, Poughkeepsie. It is an absolutely beautiful, scenic ride, and you don't have to do anything. You put your feet up. There's no middle seats. It's super comfortable. The ease of travel is unbelievable. Free Wi-Fi on every single ride and no baggage fees. Make sure you check out Amtrak today, the official sponsor of Shout. It's been an interesting offseason, in a lot of ways for your organization, because defensively, you guys have had this complete overhaul, especially up front. I mean, there's not many years where you have 3 new people on the defensive line that are draft picks, 3 new potentially that are free agents. When you set out on the offseason plan, was that some number in mind to kind of refresh this thing, or was it something that kind of built steam over the offseason as you kind of went through the process?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for how do we create as much competition as we can, and the cap, and you only get so much draft capital, so you start out and you're like, you don't know how the draft's going to fall. Free agency is first, and so let's divvy up our funds, and other than we felt like we got a good deal on Josh Palmer. Wasn't that we were necessarily going to go out and sign a receiver, but we're going to test those, and we thought that was the right fit for us and our offense, so we did that. But other than that, we were like, let's take some swings on defense. What can we make fit? And we talked to a lot of different people, and we were able to get in, a Joey Bosa, Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Hoyt, and these guys. And but knowing that a couple of them, unfortunately we found out as we talked about the suspensions they have, it's like we still got to try and hit some of these in the draft. And hopefully it works out where we almost have too many, but then, these guys serve their 6 games and come back and we're ready to get them right back into business. And again, we just, the first round we take Maxwell, we trade up in the second for TJ. It's like we really wanted to find an interior rusher at some point, and we just felt TJ was sticking out on our board. Let's go get him. And then, Landon, been following his career for, a few years at Arkansas, and thought there was really good value in his style there in the third, and then really did not think Dion would be there when he was. And so once again, start moving some pieces to get up and get him in the fourth. It's not that was a need, it was just where we had the value. Those are premium positions. If you hit that, what a cost saver that is, from your cap and your cash.
Mm-hmm. I was talking to TJ and Dion after practice today because they had that kind of combo sack kind of. I know that they're not pads yet at the end of practice. And TJ was reminiscing about, back at the Senior Bowl they were together, and they kind of like, would it be crazy if we ended up on the same team doing this in practice? When you see kind of the lights on going on, and I know we're very early in camp for some of these guys, knowing that, especially when you have 3 rookies in a position room group, to have that pressure to maybe perform right out of the gate, and you might need him to perform with the suspensions you mentioned. Have you liked what you've seen, and how much do you want to see that synergy kind of grow so you can count on all of these pieces?
Yeah, I mean, listen, these guys know, we talk to them through the pre-draft process, hey, like, you don't get like a red shirt year here. Like, we need you, and we're not going to try and drown you with info and how much we use you, but we're going to try and ramp you up, and your mindset is you got to help this team in some form or fashion come week 1. And when we get to week 1, we'll make those decisions. But I think those guys have worked hard. It's been fun. You could tell they knew each other. We had them both in on 30 visits, and they were very excited once we drafted Dion, and that dream came to fruition. And even the first day that we brought the rookies in, that you could see they already had that bond, almost like they were teammates, and they were a little bit, I guess, at Senior Bowl, but like they were college teammates. So it's fun. The pads haven't come on yet, so there's still a lot to show, and of course we got to get the preseason games, not just going against our own team, but going against some other teams and how they play it. But it'll be fun to watch these guys, and again, we're going to press them to be ready to go as soon as week 1.
I've seen you, one of the cool things about my job, I know I came in your second year. I started in 2018, but I've covered the majority of your time with the Bills. I've gotten to know you quite a bit, and we do all these media availabilities, and like I think that you're very polished, going through all the different times you have to talk to people and answering questions and all those things. There's a lot of things you have to consider, I would imagine. Earlier this offseason, the WGR interview.
Yeah.
That's one of the like rare times where I felt like it was different. Like there was a different energy behind it. Obviously, you were listening beforehand. There's a couple other times, like the overrated question last training camp. You got animated when you were defending Buffalo a couple years ago. It comes out at times. You're a competitive guy. I've been on a golf course with you. If you look back on that whole exchange and where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you asked me about my kids earlier. Like, I'm very competitive, and I try and raise them hard, like, and tough. But I'm going to be the first ones to defend them in anything. And going back to overrated, like, I love Josh Allen like a younger brother, or even though he's way bigger than me, or a son. And and you have to let a lot of things roll off here. You do, and you can't. But at some point, I think it's important to let people know enough's enough, and you're wrong. And I've heard it. I'm tired of this narrative. Like, when things become a narrative that I think have gone on too long, and we're gonna do it again, and we're gonna start, whatever that article was a year ago, we're gonna start training camp with a narrative that Josh Allen, who's been in multiple MVP conversations, been all pro, like, that he's overrated. Like, like enough's enough. The guy went through everything, and so again, the receiver thing, it was just like, man, we just had this draft, and we really, if you came out of our playoff run and maybe even a previous playoff runs, we weren't coming up short very often on offense. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to fuss at me for the job I've done or this organization, you can fuss at me. Maybe I didn't do a good enough job on defense. Like, I'll take any hit that we didn't get a stop that we needed. You can put that right on me. When I've left a couple of these playoff games, I'm going, I've got to do a better job of giving Sean McDermott and his staff the right weapons to do more things on defense to get that stop against, you know, the Chiefs or the Bengals or whoever we're playing, the Ravens. And when you leave this draft, and we were able to, after we hit those pieces in free agency, and to hit some pieces that we were very excited about, you know, Hairston and the D lineman that we discussed, to be focused on receiver, again, like we're going back to that, I just didn't understand it after the year, our offense. I got all the questions a year ago. If that had happened a year ago, Matt, with us moving on from Diggs and we didn't bring in a quote-unquote number one, totally understood that. We had to go prove it. And listen, we have to prove it again. Mm-hmm. You know, just because you did it once doesn't mean you're going to do it every year. But where we came up short was not on offense. We need to get another stop on defense. And so I just didn't feel like that. And, you know, and I think Derek did a good job of educating me. Well, I like to know if I'm going to go on a show or if I'm going to sit down with you, what's been your synopsis of things. How do you view things? And whether that's a reporter, whether that's a show. And I only listened to a small excerpt of it, but I knew that wide receiver train had been going on there for a long time. And it's just like, we just had this great draft. And on Monday morning after that, we're going to try and stir things up and gripe that we didn't get a receiver. So it is what it is. I got no hard feelings at those guys. That's not me. Like, I move on. There's no hidden agendas, but I am a competitive dude. And if I feel I really like our receivers. And I think sometimes people, because we don't have a quote-unquote number one, I think people undervalue the guys. And I include tight ends in there too. I think we got an offensive unit that is selfless, that cares about each other. And I think sometimes that can be stronger than, hey, we got a number one or we don't have a number one.
Can Dalton Kincaid change the narrative on a lot of this?
Yeah.
Because of what you're saying. Like, sometimes people don't put him in that bucket.
Yep.
I think a lot of people do. But if he comes out and has the season I think that you've been saying all offseason you expect him to have, that changes the math a little bit on the wide receiver room. ESPN put out a story, I think it was Bill Barnwell, where he ranks all of the weapons group across the NFL, and the Bills came in at 28th.
Okay.
Which I personally thought that was pretty low. Yeah. Like, considering, the season James Cook had last year, Dalton and Dawson's history, and what I think people on the outside don't understand about the vision for Josh Palmer. We've talked about all that on the show.
Yeah.
But do you think Dalton is kind of like, not to put too much pressure on him, but like the real piece that could take this whole operation to another level, which has already been pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's been at such a high level. Like, when you put up the points we have, and I think Josh would tell you this, like, you can't just say that's all Josh. You know what I mean? He would tell you. And that starts even with our O-line. And so I think, to me, it's about building the right offense for you, for your team, for your identity, where you play. We know that sometimes we're going to be in a slugfest and it's 10 degrees and it's snowing, whatever it is. We want to be able to win indoors, outdoors. We want to be able to win if it's 75 or it's 0. And that's how we've tried to build this thing. And so I think sometimes people get caught up because we don't have this outspoken number one receiver, whether it's a tight end or a receiver, whatever. James Cook, you mentioned him. I think we have a lot of good pieces, and together it's about how strong the unit is, not the individual parts. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked. And you see guys all the time that are on teams, they get 100 catches, but the team didn't go that far. Well, it's really about what the team is. It's not about, hey, this guy's playing on this team, they're perennial losers, but this receiver is getting paid a lot of money because he had 105 catches. Well, so be it. When you get to January, he's not going to be playing. He's going to be at home. And that's the thing about our unit and those guys that, again, I was very defensive about. To me, it's about the collective, not the individuals.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody, one more quick break. I have to talk to you about the National Comedy Center, located in Jamestown, New York. Ryan Talbot and I just took a one-day visit out to the Comedy Center, and it was an unbelievable experience. You probably heard Ryan sing his little tune from Dumb and Dumber. It was amazing. You could do it today. They have all these different scenes from movies and TV shows, comedy specials. You get to relive all of these moments from cinema or stand-up comedy. It is truly amazing. They have acts going on in there all the time. Don't wait another minute. Book your trip to the National Comedy Center today. I asked you a couple times, maybe you once and Sean once this offseason, but I think I asked it really clunky, so I wanted to kind of come back around to it. When you go into the draft process, right, and you have a bunch of seasons now to go back and learn about, like, you know, things that works, things that didn't. You talked about, like, looking at your own operation and how you evaluate, how you scout, all those kinds of things. Have you and Sean been able to kind of evolve your process together with how you evaluate? So you take Kaiir Elam's the most recent example, right? You draft him, it doesn't work out, 3 years later you move on, and in that same offseason, it's just convenient that you draft Maxwell in the first round, another cornerback. When you go into the process of scouting corners and the prospect of taking that guy in the first round, is there anything that you could have learned about how you position Kaiir over those 3 years, just using him as an example, and how to evaluate the player based on maybe Sean's input or Bobby's input or any other coaches to go and do it again? Because you're always kind of doing it again in this business.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, anytime something like that doesn't work out, again, with Kaiir, you know, you look at that and you go back to, you know, what's the film look like at Florida again? What's the background, and then what could we have done here? And him not working out here is not just a finger at Kaiir Elam or anything like that. Sometimes it can be circumstances. Sometimes there's so many factors because these are humans, and sometimes, this is not about Kaiir specifically. This is just an example. Sometimes you draft guys, and you know, they get here and there's life pressures. Things happen to people in life that you guys as reporters sometimes never know about. The player doesn't want it shared, we don't share it, and they're in a slump on the field, and we know they're dealing with stuff off the field, but it's very private, it's very personal. And again, you're not drafting robots. But yes, we look at everything, we look at and it's always like, again, I'm gonna start with me, what could we have done? And we're always working on our process and all right, what didn't work here? But you're also translating sometimes. Sometimes guys play in a system in college, and it's a projection business. You know, scouting is not easy, but college scouting is harder than professional scouting because you're at least seeing this guy do this for the Miami Dolphins or the New York Jets or the Bengals, whoever, versus the East Carolina Pirates, the South Carolina Gamecocks, the Florida Gators, whoever it is. So these guys are in different systems. Some guys come in and they were taught very little about offense or defense, and so you're trying to figure out were they taught that little because they can't learn, or because that coach just didn't have a lot of smart guys and wanted to keep it as simple as possible. So you're trying to learn, can this guy learn? Okay, he can learn, but he's got a ways to go. And then sometimes you go, now I see why the coach kept it simple, like he struggles. So that's part of your process in the spring that we're always doing. And again, you're never going to bat 1,000 because you're dealing with people, and things happen to people in life that never necessarily come to the surface. And but it's our job to bat a high number. If not, you know, Terry Pegula is going to find someone else, you know, to take swings instead of me. And so I'm my harshest critics. You know, you can talk about the successes that we draft. I'm always looking at, like, you know, if I'm batting 750, I want to bat 800. You know, if I'm batting 800, you know, whatever the number you say I'm batting, I'm focused on the ones I miss, not the ones I hit.
Do you think there's not enough, as an NFL community, we don't talk enough maybe about the big hits on day 2 and day 3 enough? Because I feel like if you look at your entire track record, you know, some of the big most recent examples, the Christian Benfords, the Spencer Browns, the James Cooks, like those are
Shakir.
Khalil Shakir, those are big hits, right? Yeah. That maybe don't get put in the same context as a Kyer Elam, just as using it as an example, or even some of the people that have been critical of Dalton.
Yeah.
You could go back to his rookie season. He had a big season. Criticism last year. Do you think we don't talk enough about some of those other picks that you got to make too, and you got to develop those too?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you look at Cody Ford. Like, Cody is a guy who played really well his rookie year, was playing through injuries, and unfortunately he couldn't have an offseason where he didn't have surgery, and it piles up on him. And people just go, hey, this guy's a bust. I mean, Cody's still playing in the league.
Right.
Like, people don't realize some of the things these guys, again, are dealing with. That's, and now I'm getting into playing with things. And again, Dalton, he had plenty of reasons and options to say, hey, I need to shut this down. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He could have chosen that route. There's some players that have and would have. But Dalton is a warrior. He's a tough dude. He knows the mindset of this team, and he fought through it. And unfortunately, you see why sometimes guys don't, because they're like, man, I don't want to get criticized like him. I'm playing at 80% or 75%, mm-hmm. and we're like, hey, don't worry about it. But it's true. It's a tough world out there, especially in the social media world. It can be very unfriendly, but Dalton is a resilient dude, and we have a lot of confidence in him. But it's tough to watch sometime in my seat, because you want to come out and say everything, mm-hmm. But it's not going to solve anything. It's more, I just try and support our guys. And again, sometimes I don't try to do it very often, but if I feel a narrative is just going on too long or out of line, I am going to get a little frustrated, and maybe that's a flaw I need to work on. It's just, me, I'm authentic. I am who I am, and I don't really try and hide who I am.
All right, a couple quick fires before I get you out of here. Funniest Terry Pegula moment that you could share over the years? Obviously, you've been with him for 10 years almost now?
Yeah.
A lot of stories. I feel like fans always just, we don't get to check in with him a lot. So just from your perspective, just to give a little insight into who Terry is, a funny little Terry story.
Terry's unbelievably smart, and it's crazy, his memory. Like, he sits in the draft room, doesn't say a lot, but takes tedious notes. We have, binders with these guys, all their backgrounds and stuff like that. And when scouts are talking, or I'm talking, or maybe if a coach is talking, he's writing things, he's highlighting certain things. And I mean, it's cool to watch how into it is. He loves the draft, but he can sometimes remember arguments or whatever, and what's gone, and he rarely tries to throw it in there, but if he feels like, man, I've sat on the sidelines long enough on this argument, I'm going to weigh in, and so he's, there's a player or two, but there's one time there's a player he weighed in strongly against, and we took him, and so, but I love this. Like, he supported it right
mm-hmm.
away, and it's like looking at the positive, and when the player worked out, he, he's having wine, I think, a beer or something, and there was another person there, and he was like, yeah, thank God I told Brandon, to draft this player or whatever. and so we were just laughing, and then he told him, oh yeah, we had this argument, this and that. He's just, he's an awesome owner, and I'm not just saying that, like, he's not going, I know fans, he's not going to watch your podcast. I'm not getting any brownie points for this, but like, the thing I like about Terry is he listens. Like, very few people, I think, have the skill of listening. It's one of the things that even I try to remind myself on. He is as good of a listener as you could ever ask for, and it definitely, when you get egos with that kind of money, all those people don't listen to very much. He listens. Now, if he disagrees, he's going to say it, but he listens, and he gives us the resources to do what we want to do, and he generally, I know fans don't know him that well. He's more a little bit introverted, but he can be very funny, very witty, and I wish people knew that about him, but I would just say this fan base is really lucky to have him and the Pegula family, because they love Buffalo, they love Western New York, and I'm not sure if any other owner, Matt, had gotten this team when they bought it. I'm not sure if we'd be sitting here doing this. I think it could be in another state or even another country.
For sure. Buffalo, you're passionate about the city. We've heard it before. Best Buffalo story. When you tell people about Buffalo, like what it's like to be here, what it's like to live here, like raise your family for part of the time here, what story do you go to?
I don't know if I go to a story. I just think, like, this is what I tell people. I just got back from 3 weeks in Carolina, and people's first thing, I don't know how you do those winters or whatever, and I'm like, yes and no. I'm like, I'd rather it be snowing. Like in Carolina, you can snow, but you're going to get more like cold rain. You can get freezing rain. Not that you can't get up here. I'm like, I would rather it snow than that stuff. And I said, now the length of winter is legit, but I'm like, the thing that I love about Buffalo and Western New York, and my wife and I live on some acreage, is I grew up in a very rural, very, very rural 2-stoplight town, and it feels very much like home, even though it's just can be colder in the winter. And I think Buffalo gets a rap of people until you get them up here of that, and it's fun to explain what it is, and I'm like, no, when Terry Pegula says you suck and it's time to move on, like I'm still gonna keep stuff here and have stuff. I'll spend time in both. I think it's been a blessing for me and my family to be up here, and I'm proud to represent this place, and as long as the Pegulas will have me.
Two more quick ones, they're kind of connected. What would 40-year-old Brandon Beane tell current-year-old Brandon Beane if you were to have a conversation with him as you set out on this job and being the GM of this team, if you can go back and talk to that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like anything, it's ultimately, once you get your staff, get them in order, lay it out, and just, there's sometimes you're laying out plans and you're laying out so many when you get there, you're trying to get everything done, maybe just be, it's like you're trying, I got here in May, it's like you're trying to lay out so many things, and you're starting to camp 2 months later, just take a deep breath. I think, sometimes, like our wives offset each other. Like Joe Shane's wired like me, so he was double thumb down on like, we got to get this process in order. We got to get, what I mean? You're trying to put your stamp and you're doing it. And in reality, like, I think there's times we could have just relaxed a little bit, but we knew, I think part of it was we knew, you only get so long, and you're like, we can't miss any moment, miss any opportunity. I understood why we do it, but I think, if I had to do over, I would have just said, calm down, take your time, get with the people when you get with them, don't try and do everything, right when you get in the door. I just think we were trying to do so much. Maybe sometimes you look back and go, they didn't get my message. Well, yeah, because you didn't spend enough time with them to deliver it the right way.
And I don't know if you can answer this, but is there a decision that you look back on your time as general manager and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that, one way or the other? I know you don't want to probably like call out a player or something like that, but
yeah.
Like, is there something that you look back and I wish I would have taken the other road there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, there's more than one. Like there's things you do. It's just, like I said, I'm my own worst critic, and I'm my own worst critic. Like there will be something this week I'll do, and I'm like, you idiot! Like you know better. You got to do that. And so, yes, there's definitely decisions along the way. Again, probably, one that I made out of the gate, and the reason I made it was right, but it really wasn't. When we traded a third for Kelvin to start out, I felt terrible because I had traded, Sammy and, we were trading Marcel Darius at the time, and the corner from Florida State Derby, and felt like we had traded a lot of people, yet we were telling the guys we wanted to win, and we did. Like we truly we're still trying to make the most of that season. But we gave up, a pretty good asset that maybe at the time, but it was one of those things where it was a proven player in Carolina. Unfortunately, it's nothing to do with him. It was just where we were in the build. It probably, we're just getting started. It probably would have been smarter just save that 3rd round pick and use it to build up stuff for your whatever quarterback you're going to draft. But there's other things. That was kind of the first one. At the end of the season, I was kind of like, probably was aggressive, but again, I was trying to show the locker room that, hey, we want to win. Like, I know I've taken some pieces from you, but here's a piece back. Let's go do it. And listen, I will say this: Kelvin made a huge catch in the snow game, and we know how we got in. If we don't win that game in overtime, maybe we don't make the playoffs. So it still turned out some positive things, but it was just when you got to the draft, I was like, man, that's another asset, that could be a 4-year cheap player.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, people probably don't even remember back to that as being the part of the real true culture shift. I mean, you had to break the drought, right? Like you had to do it and get through. You did that, and then obviously Josh came the next year and everything like that, and the rest we know. But yeah, I mean, that was an important season. Brandon Beane, General Manager, Buffalo Bills, joining the Shout podcast right here at the beautiful St. John Fisher University. I'm going to go get cozy in my dorm and work till about 8 o'clock tonight. There's a lot to get to. Brandon, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You got it, man. It's fun.
So what now?
Oh, sure, last round. 83. Awesome.
Great interview.
Done deal.
That was fun.
Good.
Thank you so much. That was really great.
Great. Good to work.
Go get some coffee.